Everybody else just have to do it. Welcome to the April 6, 2023 meeting of the City of Des Moines Plan and Zoning Commission. I will start out by reading the rules. The Plan and Zoning Commission is generally an advisory body to the City Council. The City Council will hold a public hearing and make the final decision on all matters before the Commission other than site plans and subdivision plats, unless denials or conditional approvals thereof are appealed. Please contact the City Clerk or Development Services staff for details on council hearings. Applicant will be given 10 minutes to present the request. Proponents and then opponents from the public are then allowed to speak in that order, with each speaker allowed a maximum of 5 minutes. Applicant is then allowed 5 minutes for a rebuttal. The hearing will then be closed, and the Commission will discuss and vote on the issue. All comments are to be germane to the item under consideration, and speakers are to maintain a courteous manner. Items listed on the consent portion of the agenda will not be individually discussed and will be considered for approval in accordance with the recommendation in the staff report, unless an individual present or member of the Commission requests that the item be removed from the consent agenda and considered separately under the public hearing agenda. I am going to ask for a motion to approve the minutes of the last meeting from March 23rd.
I'll move approval.
Thank you. All those in favor, raise your right hand. And abstentions? Thank you. And now I will read through the consent items on the agenda. Number 1, a request from Eric and Jessica Nybeck for review and approval of the major preliminary plat, Deer Meadows, formerly known as Nybeck Acres, to create 6 parcels on 24.35 acres of property located in the vicinity of 3502 113th Avenue in unincorporated Warren County, which is within the 2-mile distance for review of subdivision plats by the City of Des Moines. Is there anyone in the audience tonight who would like that removed from consent and discussed tonight? Okay, is there anyone on the Commission who would like that discussed tonight? Okay, seeing none, that will remain on the consent agenda. Item number 2, a request from Bridgestone America's Tire Operations for review and approval of the preliminary plat, Firestone Plat 1, to allow for the development of a utility substation on a portion of a 79.44 acre parcel in the vicinity of 4600 Northwest 2nd Street, also in unincorporated Polk County, also within the 2-mile distance for review of subdivision plats by the City of Des Moines. Is there anyone in the audience tonight who would like that discussed this evening? Okay, seeing none, is there anyone on the Commission who would like that pulled off consent and discussed today? Seeing none, item 2 will remain on the consent agenda. Item number 3, a request from 1321 Vermont Street, LLC, for review and approval of a public hearing site plan, Copeland Trucking, for property in the vicinity of 1321 Vermont Street, for Type 2 design alternatives, allow loading doors facing a primary street, and allow for surface parking lot in a front yard. Is there anyone in the audience tonight who would like to discuss that? Seeing none, is there anyone on the commission who would like that item discussed? Okay, seeing none, that item will remain on the consent agenda. We also have one item that could be moved to the consent agenda. Item number 4, a request from Bradley Mechanic and Belinda Mechanic for the following regarding 2 parcels located in the vicinity of 4700 Southeast 14th Street. Is there anyone in the audience who would like that item to remain on the public hearing? Okay. Is there anyone on the commission who would like that item to remain on public hearing? Okay, seeing none. Do we have a motion to move item number 4 to the consent agenda?
I'll move.
Thank you. All those in favor, raise your right hand. Okay. And now, yeah.
No.
Oh, okay.
Motion carries.
Yes. And now a motion to approve the consent agenda, which is items 1, 2, 3, and 4.
I'll move.
Thank you. All those in favor, raise your right hand. Is Justin on the line
Motion
yet?
carries.
Okay.
Ask him.
Justin, are you on the line? Not hearing. Not hearing.
Yes, I'm here.
Oh, how do you vote on the consent agenda?
Yes.
Thank you. All right. If you were here for any of items 1 through 4 from the consent agenda, you're welcome to leave now. Thank you. Item number 5 on the consent agenda, a request from University Avenue Storage for review and approval of a public hearing site plan, East University Storage, for property in the vicinity of 1901 East University Avenue for a denied Type 1 design alternative. And Nick is here from staff to present.
Cool, thanks. Madam Chair, members of the commission, Nick Tarpey, planning staff. Just as Abby just said, we're just talking about a fence tonight, so we're going to talk about look at a site plan, look at some site improvements that are proposed. The specific design alternative up for debate tonight is a fence height, so just want to keep that in mind. So here's an aerial of the site showing the context. The context is something really important that I want to point out. We'll hark back to this, we'll come back to it, but it's really in a unique edge condition. So the site here is highlighted in orange and it's cross-hatched, and you're just adjacently east of the 235 East University Avenue interchange. We're in really close proximity to the East University and Hubble Avenue mixed-use corridors, and we're just adjacent to a residential neighborhood just to the south, and there's some legacy scattered industrial uses in the vicinity too. So kind of a unique edge condition, and we'll talk about that a little bit later as well. Just want to show a few site photos. These were taken, I was over at the site on Monday, so they're relatively current in that way. This is on University Avenue looking to the east, coming out of the interchange. This is just on that same sidewalk, just looking the other way, a little bit further east. There's the existing fence facing north. This is on Walker Street, so on the south side of the existing building. We got the residential uses on the right-hand side here, and then we got the site on the left. And then here's Claypool Street, so this is from the corner of Claypool and Hubble Avenue, so looking inward towards the site. So this is part of the site area. You can see the existing building in the background there. And here's within the site, looking south, so next to the railroad tracks. Claypool Street is down here. Got the residential uses with my cursor highlighted there. And just another pretty similar view of that. So digging into the site plan just so you can visualize what's proposed here. Just a quick backup, refresh for people. There was a site plan that actually came up for review back over the summer, so summer months of last year. It's one of those that there's been a few resubmittals since that time. It was actually approved by staff about a month and a half ago. And so they were working to get approval basically in the fall and the winter months. It did show a fence at that time, so there was a fence that was surrounding these self-storage outbuildings here. As staff, we approved a 5-foot fence, so that actually we did grant some relief in that way. The maximum is 3 feet, but we did grant up to 5 feet at that time. The applicant has since returned to us and said, hey, we want to do an 8-foot fence. As staff, we thought about it and we said we could give you 6, but that would be the highest that we'd be willing to go. The applicant came back and said, we would really like to try for 8, so that's really why we're here tonight. But we have the existing building here, which is an existing self-storage facility, and then the site developments or site improvements would be some paving work, and then 8 individual self-storage outbuildings that would be placed throughout the site. So these are drive-up type self-storage outbuildings where you would pull up to your garage, get your stuff out, put your stuff in, and then leave. And so as part of our design guidelines as a self-storage facility, that is required to be a fenced compound. Not necessarily like a chain link fence, it's more of a, I guess more of a artsy fence where you have steel black tubes and then it's supported by masonry pillars. So not chain link, but it'd be a little bit more artisanal than maybe a traditional fence that you might see other places around town. So here would just be an example of what that would look like, the black steel. Here's a landscaping plan, just so you can get an idea of what would be proposed along with that, the whole site. And then here's those masonry pillars that would support the fence. So you can get an idea what that looks like. That would pretty much match the masonry that's proposed on the buildings. So digging into the staff report and recommendation, as staff, we thought about it, but we do not support the request for the 8-foot tall fence. Going back to the context that I was talking about earlier, that unique edge condition, East University Avenue, as you know, it's a major crosstown thoroughfare through the city. It's a multimodal corridor. As staff, actually, when we review site plans that abut or that are adjacent to East University, there's specific streetscape guidelines, and those are really designed to try to promote a little bit more of a pedestrian-oriented environment, reduce visual clutter, make that experience on the street a little bit more pleasant if you're walking or even driving. And so, as staff, we felt an 8-foot fence is just a little bit too tall. It creates a little bit too much of a harsh edge, pushed up right against the right-of-way there, specifically on East University, where we're trying to make it a little bit more of an inviting place to be in, to hang out in. And then on the other frontages, the southern frontages that are a little bit more residential facing, that fence would really be pushed up pretty close to the sidewalk and on property lines. And as an 8-foot fence, it really kind of creates some fortress-like elements, and we just felt that was too tall as staff, and it would really discourage walkability in the area, in a primary residential area south of the site. So for all those reasons, as staff, we do not support the request. I didn't hear anything, didn't get any comments in, but happy to take any questions about any of that.
I have a question. What is the kind of distance the fence lies from the property line of those residential lots?
So good question. So I'll go back to the site. We can take a look at that. So basically, it would sit about a foot or so off the property line, right here, a few feet off the property line on this. I guess that's the south side here. So I guess it wouldn't be right up on it, but it would be pretty close.
And quick follow-up: are they providing some landscaping?
Yeah, let's go back to the landscaping.
The two.
Yeah,
Okay.
good question.
Thanks.
Yeah, so there is somewhat of a buffer here of a mix of shrubs and grasses that would be between the property line and the fence to soften it a little bit.
Nick, if we move staff and the request is denied, does that revert to the 3-foot fence, or have you already approved up to 6 feet?
We would be able to approve up to 6 feet administratively, yes.
Go ahead, Carol.
Thanks. So the 8-foot fence with the razor wire on the top, that's on the
north
university
side?
side? Yeah. So that will be
Correct.
gone.
Good question. That would go away,
Okay.
yes. So they would remove that, and then they would replace it with I think now the existing fence is, I think it's about 6 feet.
Okay.
I was standing next to it the other day. I'm 5'9", and it was just a little bit taller than me.
Okay.
So it's about 6 feet. That would go away, and they would put this new steel masonry pillars 8 feet in its place.
And it would go, what about the building that gets pretty close to University? Is it going outside the building as well?
No,
or is it
that's a
just
good question. It would stop at the corner there.
Okay.
Yes,
Okay.
yes.
Thank you.
Does the commission have any other questions for Nick? Okay, thank you. The applicant can now present. You have 10 minutes. Please state your name and address. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Morgan Bullen, 1901 East University Avenue in Des Moines. Yeah, we're back to ask for increased fence height. To back up on this for a second, we own and operate over 65 facilities across the U.S. and just recently underwent a bit of a project and hired a third-party security company to come in and look at everything that we're doing and sort of pull together more of a standard. Property crime and theft, unwanted activity, it's up nationwide, and we're trying to mitigate that and prevent that. We're aware that there's issues that have been happening at this site, partly because the fence right now is so easy to break into. It's just chain link. People can show up and cut right through. So what we're trying to do is continue to improve the property, continue to improve the area, keep unwanted activity out, and just overall increase the security. So we did propose 8 feet. That's what came back with our security company. That's what we're trying to implement at other facilities. But as Nick touched on, we would be thrilled if we could get a new 6-foot fence, a better looking, more secure 6-foot fence. That's it.
So you just said 6 foot, and Nick said that the staff is ready to do a
I thought I
6.
saw in the report there was a recommendation potentially for 6. Yes. Yep.
The staff is okay with a 6-foot fence? So are you okay?
We would be okay with a 6-foot fence. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
We didn't know that that was going to be where it came out as kind of a counter on the 8, which is why we still continued to show up tonight.
Okay. Okay. Does the commission have any questions for the applicant? Okay. All right, thank you. I think there's a piece of paper there, if you could write your name and address. Thank you. Is there anyone in the audience tonight who would like to speak in support of this?
Hi, my name's Rita, and I live right across the street from this building. We've always had a real nice neighborhood, calm. Am I understanding that they're wanting to put up the 6-foot fence plus a razor? No, none of that stuff. No barbed wire, razor stuff. Okay. And, I mean, it's going to look real nice. We've had trouble with this storage place. So that was my question. That's all I have to say.
Okay.
Thank you.
Would you sign into that, on that sheet right there? Thank you so much. Is there anyone else in the audience who would like to speak in support of this item tonight? Is there anyone who'd like to speak against the item tonight? Okay, seeing none, I will close the public comment and open it up to the commissioners for discussion.
Just making sure I'm understanding. So right now, staff is recommending denial of an 8-foot. And if we accept denial of this, the intention is that staff will administratively approve a 6-foot fence? Or is there any clarification we should put in here to ensure that the intent to approve a 6-foot is codified?
You can note in your motion that you encourage staff to, issue a type 1 for a 6-foot, but that's our intention to, I apologize if it wasn't clear. We had hoped to pass that on to the applicant, but we were comfortable with 6 feet. We just thought 8 was too much, given how close it is to the residential. I think Nick did a good job laying it out.
Okay, can I move staff with urging that we approve a 6-foot fence through administrative approval?
Absolutely. Thank you, Chris. That's the motion on the floor. Is there any discussion first? All right, seeing none, all those in favor, raise your right hand. Any opposed? No? Justin, if you are on the line, can you let us know what your vote is?
Yeah, I'm gonna vote no.
Going to vote no? Okay, thank you. All right,
Motion carries.
that was the last item. Wow, that was fast. I'll close the,
Well,
do
we
I
gotta do
close
that.
the public hearing before that, though?
well, no, when you
No.
gavel out, then the meeting's over.
Okay.
So let's
I
go ahead and
will
do,
gavel out.
we'll do reports.
All right.
Yeah.
Committee and
Other
directors'
items.
reports?
Yes, yes. So the first thing in your packet, you got updated bylaws. This is really a continuation of discussion we've been having about just how best to record our votes and and using the right terminology for what our intent is. I think there's been some little confusion on what a person's intent is, and really it's, when we abstain versus when we are really wanting to pass. And what we've tried to do is update the bylaws to clarify that. And so, for instance, like moving forward, when we would do the minutes, when you abstain for something, you really need to leave, you need to leave the table and be in the audience. You count as quorum, but you can't participate because you have a conflict. I think you see our friends that are from architecture firms do a great job of leaving when there's a project that their firm is working on. So that's a conflict. But if it's something where you are, let's say you weren't at the last meeting, you don't feel like you can vote on the minutes, that's probably something where you just really are passing. If you feel conflicted on how you want to vote, you don't know how to vote on an item, but you've participated in the discussion, that'd be a time to pass. And that's the intent of what these amendments are. If anybody has any, my time's up, I should be done. That's okay. If anybody has any questions about how it's written or what we're going to do moving forward, please let us know. Otherwise, I would ask for somebody to make a motion of approval on these, and they will go on to the city council.
I think, on item 26, fully agree, love the intention. Obviously, since I'm a heavy user of this anyway, that's, appreciate it. I guess I'm curious on number 13, the definition of leaving. I guess number one, what's the intention and what do we actually mean by that? Because it seems like if we make it too tight, we end up with access to be challenged. I mean, is leaving, you're just outside of the public frame of view, you're outside of the ability to visually influence, when we say leaving in definition 13, what would be considered not leaving? Like right now, people get up from the seat and sometimes sit in the back. I mean, it seems to say it leaves the meeting. Where's the meeting end physically?
I think our intent, Chaz, interrupt if you want, but I think our intent was you're leaving the realm of where the discussion's happening. You're an observer back there. You're not engaging, so you're not podium up. You're back at podium. But that's my layman's description. I don't know if you have a better, more legal.
Yeah, I think that would reflect, the common practice and what's been instructed in the past is leaving I would consider this like the gallery of commissioners up here. Obviously, you can't discuss, and there's no been expressed need to leave the actual meeting venue or anything like that for one item, and as long as no discussion is heard or no vote is heard from that member, we would be avoiding any conflict. We can further define that if you so request, and we can do that if need be. So,
I was just curious. We had one time where we had an individual who wasn't a small individual who's may have left the podium but then remained menacing. I'm not saying any commissioner is going to do that. Would we consider that person have left? Did that person leave at the time, or they remain there and still remain glaring and intending to influence? I'm just curious. It just seems in here whether or not it's a, aggressive or abusive motion, or whether or not it's someone who is, we have reasonably influential people here on this, on this board. If they're sitting in the room, are they still influential with their presence? I'm not saying I have an opinion either way. I would probably pass on this. However, I'm just thinking that's something that we would probably be right to be thoughtful on. What do we really mean by leaving?
I think we could, if in the commission's motion you'd like us to look at that, I think we could come up with something a little more definitive that, you said, you use kind of the terminology of the commission's gallery. I think we could come up with some terminology that kind of describes what I said in more layman's term. Yeah, the audience versus the. where
I
we're
think in
sitting.
the past, we've also had people go behind the wall during a discussion of an item that they
Yeah.
abstained for, but usually they take a seat in the audience.
Yeah.
My concern is mostly that if they don't say that they're abstaining to begin with, or until the vote is happening, and that they've stayed up
Yeah, that's
with
yeah,
the
that's-
commission the whole time.
Right.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think we can look at some tweaks to that language.
I guess I would urge we look at it being performance, more performance focused, identifying that there is no access to perception of undue influence when a conflict exists, something along that lines, because whether or not we're talking about the boundary of the wall or we've left another room, as long as we're saying, hey, there's no perception of, perception of influence, that's really seems like what we're going for, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, go ahead.
I guess, would the commission prefer, that commissioner leave the room? And that can be written into, the rules, but yeah, I guess in other commissions and boards, from my understanding, the treatment of that is the member leaves the gallery or simply does not involve themselves in the discussion or voting. It may not even be necessarily physical leaving. So this was, kind of a suggestion on that, as we've done with the practice of this commission in the past. So
My point's just when we start defining, you must be in this little box, you must be in this location, we have access to missing the point, which is we don't want someone who has a conflict from having any perception of undue influence in the discussions. Where they're physically located, to me, doesn't seem as important as, the effectiveness of their removing themselves from the conflict. So again, luckily I'm not a lawyer, so this is your area, not mine, but.
So are you saying it doesn't, as long as they're abstaining, it doesn't concern you if they're still up here or where they are, as long as they're?
I guess I would think if someone is up here, there's access to perception of conflict.
Right.
If someone's sitting in the room and still standing in the corner and watching in a very intent way, that seems like there's still perception of access to conflict. But I don't really know if we want to say, oh, you must be behind X wall, or you must be behind 20 feet away, or you must be behind such and such a door. That seems like we're going to end up splitting hairs and getting in trouble. Where if the intent is very clear of we want them to be physically, or we want them to be in a location where there's no perception access to conflict, that seems it leaves up the better judgment of Jason and those who are running this better to give guidance without hemming us into, what if we move this into an open plan area? Where do you go now? Do you leave the building? That's my concern. If we're in a fully glass building, what do you do there? And it seems like there's no point in defining it specifically if we can just say we're removing the access to potential for interpretation of conflict.
Oh, sorry, go ahead, Carol.
Hi. The conflict of interest seems to happen more regularly on this commission than, say, at city council. And the one time I've seen it at city council, it was with Councilmember Mandelbaum. And he announced his conflict, and he got up and left the room. It was very clear. And he happened to be mayor pro tem at that point and had to turn that over to another council member to run the meeting while he was gone. That made it very clear that he couldn't influence. I thought that's kind of a good standard, frankly, and I don't think commissioners are willingly going to influence us, but with eye signals or things like that. But it just seems like, why not have them leave because then we've belt and suspended it. I don't know. That's just my thought.
My only concern with asking somebody to leave is that that they know when to return.
Right.
And that we don't forget
Yeah, and it,
to ask them to come back in.
it feels like, to your point, it only happened once at city council. It does happen frequently here. We have 14 people, first of all, and we have a lot of architects who work on these projects. So it seems like a lot to ask someone to actually physically leave the room. And I don't think this is getting brought up because people were physically in the audience. I think it was because there was discussion happening on the bench, and then people were abstaining. So I feel like we're getting off track from why we're even talking about this in the first place.
The other thing too is that council, there's TVs outside, so you would know to come back in. We don't have that here. So I do think what is written, I mean, I think we can interpret that and we'll be okay. I think if we want to change it to, I like the leaving what'd you call it again?
The gallery.
The gallery, I think that actually reflects what we do. And that's people leave the commission zone of discussion and they go back. So I would be comfortable if we want to tweak it to that. Either path is fine with me.
Okay.
Should we vote on that?
Yeah, we need a motion for this, correct?
Yes, please.
Yes, if I can get a motion.
I'll move that,
To accept the
as written.
the bylaws, the change to the bylaws.
Okay.
As
As submitted, yep.
Yes. Okay, all those in favor? Raise your right hand. Okay, opposed? Justin, how do you vote? Is he still there?
I vote yes.
Okay, vote yes. Thank
Motion
you.
carries. No, he voted in opposition
no.
with Carol. Yep.
All right, thank you. We are done for the evening.
Now you can hammer.
I did. I hammered twice, just to make sure.